afternoon, everybody, to Dawn's travelogue to Madagascar. It's always been a country of interest to me, so I'm quite looking forward to this. I think most of the people that I've seen on there know who I am, but just in case, I'm Nancy Cutler. I'm a warden at Holy Trinity, and we are hosting Dawn, who at one time served as an assistant minister here, and we have many fond memories of him. But his avocation passion is photography, particularly of nature. So you're in for a treat this afternoon. Dawn has asked that if you have any questions, and if you can, enter them in the chat box and or hold them until the end of his presentation. I or Yvonne or one of us will monitor the chat box and note down the questions so we can feed them to Dawn at the end of his presentation. So Dawn, welcome for this. This is the first time that I'm aware of that we have done this kind of a bring your tea and have a chat and have some learning on the side series. So I hope you will enjoy it. And Dawn, basically over to you, my friend.
Okay. I want to start by recording. Where is my button to record?
Dawn, it should be at the bottom.
Everything's at the top now.
Okay.
Participants, new share, pause, more, record on this computer. Now I got the button. I'm recording. So just so people know, we're recording this. I think Rebecca is and can make it available to people later if you have to leave for whatever reason. And I was loving seeing people come online because I saw a lot of familiar faces and old friends, and that was absolutely delightful. I need to be able to get at my stuff to open this next screen, so maybe I can find it. There we go. I'm going to start in, and this is a travelogue. We took a trip, Adrian and I, a couple of years ago in 2019 to Southern Africa. We had been to other places in Africa, but hadn't ever been to the southern part of that wonderful and huge continent. So we wanted to see Southern Africa, and I couldn't stand the thought of going to Southern Africa without stopping first in Madagascar. We love to do research on countries. We check everything out before we go. We follow up with the experience there with asking lots of questions while we're there, and then we research and follow up later. So let me tell you a little bit about Madagascar. I don't know if any of you have been there yourselves or not. It's not a popular tourist destination compared to some other places, but I wanted to go there, and I wanted to see particularly some of the lemurs, which have always been of interest to me. So a little bit about Madagascar. You see there where it is, next to the, not far off the shore of Africa. It broke away from Africa about 180 million years ago during the Jurassic period. And then it broke away next from the Indian subcontinent as the Indian subcontinent moved north. So that has isolated it for a very, very long time. But some of the things about Madagascar connect to Africa, connect to India, and in fact to connect to Gondwana when all of the southern continents were one big supercontinent. The other thing about Madagascar, it's one of the poorest countries in the world, and I'll be talking more about that later. In terms of my interest in photography, there are 200,000 known species to be in the country of Madagascar, and an amazing percentage, 150,000, are endemic, which just means that they're found nowhere else in the world. So that's an amazing percentage and shows how long it's been isolated and how then evolution has taken Madagascar in directions that nowhere else has gone. So in terms of size, very quickly, Madagascar is just a bit bigger than France, as you can see, and quite a bit smaller than the province of Ontario. So I sort of use those 2 points as reference. Madagascar has about less than half the population of France, but you can see it's way more people living there than we have in Ontario. But as we know, in Ontario, most of us live in the south, and that's one of the reasons. We went from Toronto to France because France is a great place to connect then on to Madagascar. And I don't know if other people do. I always argue for a window seat in an airplane because I do photography while we travel. So I get wonderful pictures like this, which is the Alps from 35,000 feet in the airplane. Anyway, we arrive in Madagascar in Antananarivo, which everybody shortens to Tana because the full name is rather a mouthful. And this is the capital and largest city in Madagascar, about 2.6 million people. In fact, it's about the only big city in Madagascar. And the official languages are Malagasy and French, partly because this was, in fact, most recently a French colony. And so French is one major language. And in Malagasy, there are 18 different ethnic groups. And this is a scene from the city of Tana. You can see lots of people walk. There are some vehicles. It's very congested. Getting through town is not easy, but I wasn't driving, so that was great. We had a driver for the whole time we were there, and he was a wonderful, wonderful guy that got us everywhere and did everything. And it doesn't take long, though, to get outside of Tana, where in fact the majority of the population live outside of the city in small rural villages. And that we're looking sort of at one of those little villages. Rice is a huge crop and grown wherever possible. And huge amounts of rice are eaten at every meal in Madagascar. We ate a couple of places in a Malagasy restaurants, and I'm a rice eater. Adrian's a rice eater. We could not eat the portions we were given. But rice paddies, as you see, also have lots of nice birds in them. So if I look at those are great egrets. Now, that's not what I'm showing you, but the rice fields. And very labor intensive. Everybody, hand labor. I didn't see much machinery in any place in Madagascar that we went. Everything's done by hand. And people walk. Very good at carrying things on their heads. So you go to the grocery store and you carry everything home on your basket, on your head. And everywhere we went, yeah, people walking. This is one of the few people we ever saw walking alone. We saw people walking together, couples, families, groups of people, young people, but also interesting. There's virtually no electricity in the rural villages, only in the city of Tana. So everywhere we went, if there was a river or a stream, we would find the clothes had been washed and were put out in the sun to dry. So it was colorful, a different kind of scenery, but very, very colorful. And the first place we stopped on our way to where we were staying was a place where they have a large nature reserve, some of it enclosed, some of it open. And the first thing we saw that is really an endemic and wonderful in Madagascar is chameleons. 346 kinds, 131 endemic, and just enjoy some of these. I'm just going to go through. I don't know the names of them all, but the characteristics of a chameleon: it has the eyes that roll independently, which gives them wonderful stereo vision for catching bugs with their tongue, and they have a prehensile tail that that they can hold on with. And they're gorgeous. They're just also very interesting. That's Adrienne and her hands. She had a hands-on experience with some of the very small chameleons, and they're just gorgeous. They blend in. Sometime later, when we were out on our own, we'd find chameleons, and you had to be sharp-eyed. And gorgeous colors, and almost prehistoric, but quite enjoyed the chameleons. Very, very colorful. We did have our guide feed one a bug. It flicked it off his little stick in no time at all, and he said he carries little bugs with him just to entertain people like us and to feed the chameleons. So they're a gorgeous group of things. That this one I call Smiley. Guy Smiley. He's got this. It's not teeth, but he looks like he's smiling. And there you see again the curled up tails, and yeah, these were just gorgeous. So this is one of the joys of travel. You get to see some unusual things. I had never seen a chameleon in the wild before, and this one sort of has the head like a rhinoceros head, and I think that is actually its name, although I didn't get all the names. And then this was a few in the wild. They usually hang upside down. There you see the prehensile tail in use, and the hands, and you can spot them because they have these red spots, but others are pretty hard to see. As well as chameleons, we found out there were 44 species of bats in Madagascar, 34 of which are nowhere else, and most of them are insectivores, which they eat insects, and only 3 eat fruit and are frugivores, but we didn't see too many bats. There are over 90 kinds of snakes in Madagascar, and more are being found as they get into some of the more remote areas. The good news was that none of them were dangerous to people. So we weren't worried, and we did actually see some great snakes and boas in a couple of different trees later on, which were gorgeous. And geckos. They're smaller, they're different from the chameleons, and they're on leaves, some of which are nicely colored geckos, some of which are very hard to find and see. This is a leaf-tailed gecko, and you can see the leaf, you can see the little hands, and some of them are really quite hard to see. They blend right into to the scenery, to the background, and look like the wood that they're on. So I'm not going to point this out. You find the gecko that's on here if you can. Just take a minute, look at the picture. Where is the gecko? And there it is. It's that thing there. I could find it because there's its eye, there's its feet. But as you can see, it's very, very hard. Our guide knew where this one was because I would never have found that on my own. So,
Don, it's Rebecca.
Yes.
We do have a question just as we're looking at this magnificent. Are you sure he wasn't just fossilized onto the onto the wood?
Well, it might have been glued on there by the guide, Rebecca. I never saw it move, but it did blink once.
There you go. So we just have a question. Are there ferries to Africa, or you're curious? I can't pronounce it, but anyway, were there French or Italian excursions in the past?
There was lots of yeah, there are lots of different people have been through and into and colonized Madagascar. It certainly has connections with Africa. It has connections with India in terms of geology. It has connections with a lot of that area in terms of culture and people. So it's actually a long and fascinating history of the original people that came. They came in several different waves. And then in the period of colonial expansion, of course, a long history there as well in terms of things like that, Rebecca. Yeah. And then less hidden, but more obvious, frogs, over 300 species, and almost all of them are only in Madagascar. This is the tomato frog, but I'm told it is not good to eat like a tomato. If you touch one of these frogs, it secretes a very thick and sticky and bitter substance, and nothing eats it. It's called tomato, but I wouldn't want it sliced on a piece of toast, I can tell you that. And some of the other painted frogs, any frog you see like this, which is brightly colored, is warning you. It's saying, I'm dangerous, I'm poisonous, touch me at your own risk. And so the other, that's what it means. Any brightly colored frog, don't touch it. You might not like the results. And little frogs you see at night. I love being out, especially in rainforest at night. Not everybody enjoys that experience, but I do. And the things you see at night are just amazing. So that's the same little frog. You can see how big its eye is, because it's in the little pads on its paws and feet. And there's a whole new species or subspecies or genus they're finding now in Costa Rica called the mini frog. That's Adrian's finger and the end of her finger, and that's the frog. So you can see how tiny they are, and some of these are still being found that have never been found before. So brand new species and a whole new genus of frogs. That was sort of where we began. Our first day was at the Vacona Forest Lodge, and Vacona is a kind of palm. It's called a welcome palm. It's called welcome not because it welcomes you, but because people were welcome to see it. If you were in the bush, you were thirsty, you could get a drink here. If you were hungry, you could get something to eat here. So it fed and gave people water and food, and they were very welcome to see this particular form of palm. And it was a wonderful place, as good as any place we've ever stayed. And given such a poor country, the third poorest in the world, some of these places were just magnificent. That's where we ate every day. That usually was our table, because I like to be close to the water. And then from down there looking up, there was our room. And I would get up. I am not a morning person normally, but when we're away, I'm up at dawn or before dawn, because that's when the birds are out. I've got all sorts of pictures I take just walking around the grounds from there. So wonderful, wonderful place. Then we started going, because one of the things we went to see were the lemurs, and this was Endesibi. It's one of the best known, most popular places around where we were. Very, very much visited by lots and lots of people. And we wanted to go there the first morning to see our friends, the lemurs. It's a rainforest. This is a typical rainforest setting. Big trees, lots of trees, high canopy, not much light at the bottom. You can see how dark it gets near the bottom. And the multiple kinds of plants and flowers growing, things on top of things on top of things. And this was our first guy. This is our first sighting of the Indri. There are 110 species of lemurs in Madagascar. This is one of the daytime lemurs, the diurnal, and it's the biggest of the lemurs. And I was supposed to have set up what it sounds like. I'm sorry, I didn't get to that because I was trying to get online, but it has a call that sounds, the only thing I can describe it, it sounds like a whale. It sounds like a humpback whale, high, whiny pitch, and they sing every morning to say, here we are, and we're in our area and stay away. So they communicate with these songs, and they're just gorgeous, gorgeous creatures. Hang on, Adrian's got I think she's got. Oh, she's got this injury sound. Nah, it's not coming through. If you can get it going, Adrian, we'll play them the injury song. But this is one of the ones I saw that was up on the top of a tree. I'm up on a high hill. Oh, here we go. Okay, so when you hear that, you run to the sound, and these are the things that you see. So that lemur's looking at me. I'm on a high hill looking straight out at him or her. I can't tell them apart. They know. This was one of the nice encounters with the lemur that one of the guides had trained to come down, and he would accept a leaf from you. The guide said some of them get bananas, but he doesn't believe in bananas. It's not a natural food, so he only feeds them. And this guy's saying, "Can I have a little snack, please?" And they're just, the Indres were just incredible creatures. Lots of others, though. This is the diademed Sipraka lemur, Sipasa. It's very different looking, but equally interesting. And I managed to get some good shots of this one. As you see, they're up in the trees. They are leaf eaters, and leaves and twigs, and yum, yum. Luckily, I have a camera with a very big zoom. I have 110 times zoom, or 125 times zoom, actually. So I can be a long way away and get very close. This is the common brown lemur that came by us a couple of times while we were there. And in this one particular spot, that's another common brown lemur. And this is a cute little guy. There's a whole subspecies of lemurs that are called mouse lemurs, and they're about the size of a mouse. So this is one of the this is the smallest of the lemur family. Tiny little hands, little nose, and they're so cute. They're just so cute. They're nocturnal. They're at night. You can see the great big eyes, and you know, you want to put one in your pocket and take it home, but best not to do that with a lemur or a mouse. And the place we stayed had this interesting arrangement. They had this island. You can see this is water and canoes, and you get in one of these little canoes, you go across to the island, and they keep different species of lemurs on different islands because lemurs will not cross water of any kind. So they're totally contained within an island, won't cross water. We went over, they were very friendly lemurs. They came to greet us, and they perched on Adrian's head first thing, and they were a bit sassy. This one's, you know, sticking out his tongue saying, nah. But beautiful, beautiful things. And the brown and white ruffed lemur, which was there. Now, there were some other lemurs there. Adrian went off on one of those canoes. My back was really, really sore, and I couldn't go. I couldn't go to see the other one, so I didn't get any pictures. I sat with these guys or stood with these guys. It was raining, and we sort of looked at one another and said, oh, grump, grump, grump. Tomorrow will be a better day, and my back will be better too. So. And along with lemurs, butterflies, there are over 300 species of butterflies and 210 of them only there. Just gorgeous, gorgeous butterflies. I like butterflies. Um, Wonderful, wonderful views and pictures. And the nice thing about butterflies is they're midday, morning birds, evening birds. If you're out midday, look for butterflies. That's when they're around in the warm. And leaf butterflies, which are, I should have made you find that one. Hard to see some of them. Look like leaves, and that's their disguise. Some are big and obvious. Some are like a leaf. I'm a leaf, don't bother me. And yeah, very, very interesting. I happen to really like butterflies, and here we have monarchs, but there they've got a whole bunch of different kinds. And they just make such pretty pictures too, perched on the different flowers. So butterflies and moths. This is one of 2,680. I've heard as many as 400 or 4,000 species of moths. And apparently moths were in Madagascar before butterflies. So they diversified, and a lot of the moths in Madagascar are unusual because they're out in the day, and they occupy niches in the ecology that normally only butterflies do. So lots and lots. This was, I think, the most colorful of the moth species that we saw. The place where we stayed had a white sheet and a light on it, shining on it at night. So we'd go down and see what was there every evening and every morning. So lots and lots of different kinds of moths. There's not much difference between a moth and a butterfly. Some people say, well, one are out in the day and the other at night, but that's not entirely true. And they usually have heavier antennas, and there are some differences, but it takes a butterfly moth specialist to know the difference. I can't tell the difference all the time, but they are gorgeous, and yeah, lots and lots of butterflies and moths. Another thing that fascinates me just walking around in a place like this, a rainforest, is just the diversity and the beauty of the vegetation itself. You know, there's birds, there's animals, there's insects, but just the plant life, it just blows me away. And one of the reasons I'm so fascinated, just the kinds of plants and the shapes of leaves. Some of them we are familiar with because we see them in our planters and such here in Canada. But there, then, instead of being small, they're like 6 or 8 feet high and huge leaves and just magnificent. And of course, anybody that knows me knows we're going to get into birds. And there are 308 species of birds in Madagascar. Not as many are only in Madagascar because birds have the advantage of flying. So they can fly to Africa, they can fly to India, and in fact, they do. So this is just, and I'll just take us through, I won't talk about all these different birds, just look at and enjoy the beauty of them. So I hope you're seeing the names. If not, this is a Madagascar buzzard. This is a crested drongo, and there's why. Look at that beautiful crest. Look at that beautiful crest. Such gorgeous birds. They have pigeons. Blue pigeon. The koa. There's a whole species, subspecies of koas. What I saw in Madagascar is how many had blue eyes. Very unusual in most of the birds that I know from North America to have bright blue eyes. Really quite different. Bulbul, this is very much an African bird as well. We've seen lots of bulbuls in all different parts of Africa. So this is a bird they share. This is probably specialized now for Madagascar, but certainly bulbuls are very, very common in Africa. That's the same bird, but different lighting. And sometimes the difference that the light makes, that's what photographers live for, is good lighting. And you get shots like this that just, I'm still blows me away. And weaver birds, This is the male of this particular species. You can see the bright colors, the black, the beautiful colors, and the female, as often the case, still very colorful, but not quite as much so as her male counterpart. And this was a cute little bird, the wagtail. And they're always wagging their tail. They're jumping around like our robins do, but their tails wag and wag and wag, and they're just fun to watch. There's another wagtail female. That was the other first one was a male. And again, you see the differences in color. Lots of flycatchers, and normally flycatchers you can tell because they have these whiskers to sense the insects. So they're going around, there's perching, they go out and catch an insect and come back, and they have whiskers to help them detect the bugs. And this is a whole family of very special and beautiful flycatchers, the Madagascar paradise. This is the male, white, blue-eyed again, long white tail. I'm sorry some of that's covered. Great long white tail. That's the male. This is the female, shorter tail, orange colored, but again, the common eye. And beautiful in her own way, just as much. And this is a juvenile. So has the female's coloring a bit, and the eye in common, but the long tail, and as this juvenile matures, that will turn white, like the male adult male. So wonderful to see the family together and see the transitions that occur. The vangas, again, you see the blue. That's another shot of the same vanga. Just adorable birds. Madagascar white eye for obvious reasons. Beautiful white eye. You look for trees in which they're feeding. And birds are like us. They like to eat. They need food. They need water. And they need shelter. So find them eating, find them drinking. Sunbirds. Oh, sunbirds are gorgeous. I've filmed them in different parts. I've seen them in different parts of the world. But these are the sunbirds of Madagascar. And early in the morning, not my best lighting, but it's still, you still see the incredible colors. And yeah, sunbirds are special. And there's a heron. You know, we have our beautiful great blue heron. I love it. I take pictures and see them all the time. This is their purple heron. It's just the colors. I've never seen anything like this. Even in Africa, I never saw a heron as colorful as this. And I have seen quite a number of different herons, but the purple heron. So that's some birds. This is some of the countryside we hiked through. You can see the hill. We were up on top. That's where I took pictures of the one beautiful Indri. And then we're walking back through. Good for walking, good for hiking. We did a lot of hiking and walking with our guide. You start, as you come back, you start to get into places where there's agriculture and small farms, which is typical of Madagascar. Little communities of farms, crops laid out that they gather. Most of the time in the fields, we saw the women working. I don't know where the men were. This is a storage for grain, so they can keep it away from the rodents, the mice and such that want to steal their grain. And how about ginger? Anybody want some ginger? Lots and lots of things like that. Great fruit stands. Adrian's there buying some fruit for lunch and for a snack. And that everywhere you go, little fruit stands on the side of the road, and beautiful, wonderful fruit, and very inexpensive. We had to go to town one day. This is Anasibi, the little village that we were near. The cord on my cell phone, the charger broke. So he had to take me into town, and he knew where to get me a cord, a brand new cord. And as you can see, no cars. Very few people drive or have cars. This is probably a village of maybe 1,000 people. but it was the closest place to where we were staying. Another big park that we went to, the interesting thing about Masinjo is a lot of the parks are owned by the government. They're state parks, they're government run. This is a place where the guides got together and bought this piece of property to preserve it. And this is their own. This is their own place, and they're very, very protective of it. They're very great. This is where we did a lot of our hiking. They are big on restoring the environment, so they have a green garden. They grow things. They grow trees. These are trees for replanting because they're trying to reforest. Madagascar is known for its deforestation, but they're trying to reverse that. We got to plant trees, and there's Christian, our guide and driver, and Adrian's planting some trees. And everywhere we go, we try to get involved in tree planting. There she is, got her little tree, and they mark them with sticks. So those trees will grow up. They're cutting down a lot of the trees that are not endemic and native to Madagascar, that were planted, a lot of them by the French for quick growth and all of that, but they're not the right trees for there. So those are being cut down and native trees are being planted. And here's my special friend, malachite kingfisher. This place had ponds, and with water, you get kingfishers. And this is always one of my favorite little birds. They're just so beautiful. Yeah. So colorful. And I got this interesting shot I was trying to get of her reflection. You know, if a bird will pose, I will take as many shots as I can in different ways to try to get one that's kind of neat and interesting. And we were told, this is a tenrec. We were told we wouldn't see any of these when we were there because it was the wrong time of year. But Adrian spotted one anyway, and I jumped out of the car and got a picture of it. So a little bit like a hedgehog or a miniature grouse or a miniature porcupine, more like a hedgehog, I guess. Cute little guy. Okay, then we went somewhere completely different. We traveled for most of the day. We got on a boat just like this. We went down one of the longest river channels in the world, of canals and lakes all interconnected, and we stayed here. And this looks like beachfront, but it's not. This is fresh water, and the ocean is about 100 yards behind that row of trees. We could hear it, but this is inland and fresh water. And the lemurs here are even friendlier. So this is Adrian with a black and white ruff that came to see her. I had one of these. I had a banana in my pocket, foolishly. It decided it was his banana and took it out of my pocket, and there was not much I could do about it. It was taking that banana, and it did. And they hang around. Wonderful seeing them hanging around all over the place. And they're just gorgeous. Black and white ruffed lemurs. Red ruffed lemurs, so you can see the difference, very different. This place had about a dozen different kinds of lemurs, and they were all very close to where people stayed. Where we stayed didn't have lemurs close, but this place did. And they jump. This is a hard shot to get. You have to wait till they jump, and then you have to have your camera ready, and then you have to be lucky. But I managed to get this guy jumping, red ruffed. These are crowned lemurs. This is the male with the reddish part on the face, and this is the female. Gorgeous little lemurs, smaller than some, but gorgeous. There's another crowned lemur male, and look at the tail. Huge, big tails. And yeah, I was fascinated by the lemurs. Another red crowned. And another red crowned. Gorgeous, gorgeous creatures. And then because there's so many lemurs living so close together, we start getting hybrids. And our guide looked at this one and said, it's a mixture. It's got some features of one and some features of the other. And he said, we get quite a few hybrid lemurs here. This is the black lemur male. We're looking at him. He's looking at us. See him? I'm looking at you, looking at me. And he did. He gave us a real staring contest as I took his picture. And that's his mate. That's the black lemur female. You can see how different they are. But again, the black face. And yeah, another female. They come for breakfast every morning. And that's when we get to see them. This is probably another hybrid. Some features of one, some features of another, maybe another hybrid. And this one as well. So you can see they get mixed up that way. I've seen hybrid ducks too. It's quite weird to see things mixed together. And there they had some of the critically endangered tortoises that are endemic to Madagascar. A radiated tortoise. This is a fairly big one. And beautiful shell, very intricate. You can see the design of the shell is very intricate. And then there's the spider tortoise. That's Adrian's holding it in her hand. Also critically endangered, but quite a difference in size. So there's the spider tortoise. These are the kind of trails we walk around. You can see it's not primary growth. The trees are all very small, so this is not primary growth rainforest. This is secondary, and the trees aren't big, but they still support a lot of life. And this is a typical path that we would walk around and see more chameleons. You look up, you look around, you look everywhere. We were good at spotting things, but the guides were better. They pointed out things to us. And the different chameleons again, and I was proud of these because they were ones we found, and I got pictures of. So yeah, they're just so interesting, and those eyes and seeing them, I should have taken a movie and put in, because watching those eyes rotate is just an incredible sight. There are 175 species of dragonflies in Madagascar. 105 of them are only there. I happen to be in love with dragonflies and dragonfly photography, even more so than birds. Maybe because it's a bit more of a challenge, but I just find dragonflies to be a fascinating and wonderful subject for photography, and the colors and getting the shots. So this is one of those dragonflies. There's another. And yeah, even in Canada, when we go out, Adrian does a lot of the spotting of the birds, and I'm looking for dragonflies if I can find them. And yeah, they're just incredible to the wings and the fragility, and yeah. And there's, I think, one of the best ones I got. Beautiful, beautiful dragonflies. Aren't they colorful? Of course, there were more frogs. Different place, more frogs, hiding in the leaves, different colors, different shapes, different places in the environment, and big eyes. And this is at night again. Nice feet. And another mini frog. Another of that. This is our guide's finger. That's Christian's finger. But you see how tiny they are, and you can imagine why they might not have been obvious to people and why they haven't been found until just recently. And more Indris. This was our encounter with an Indri family. So there's Papa at the bottom, Mama and baby, and we probably spent about an hour watching these three. And it was just a very special experience. You just feel like you're part of the family. And there's Papa. He's there to guard and make sure everything's okay. And there's Mama and the baby. You know, why not ride on Mama's head and hang on tight? So just to watch them interact, watch them play. The little ones there saying, "I'm with my mom." And the big eyes for both of them. Just so, so sweet. I could spend, you know, I could spend hours just standing there and watching this. And there, baby's off on his own saying, "See how brave I am, I'm all by myself, look at me." And then back with mom. Yeah, it was just special, an encounter with the Indries. And we didn't hear them calling here, but we certainly had the family visit. And along with Indries, not everybody likes snakes. Oh, I'm doing the, sorry, let me get this. There we are. This is a leaf nose snake. You can see the big long nose. Somebody was carrying this around on a stick. I'm not quite sure why, but it gave me a chance to get a very good photograph of it. We didn't see many snakes. We saw a few. And that was the leaf nose. There's my own finding of a little leaf nose snake. So always nice to have snakes. And geckos again. This is the really colorful, bright, almost fluorescent colored gecko. And gecko on a log, gecko on our table for breakfast. They came to visit. Gecko we're sharing our banana for breakfast with the gecko. We had some banana, the gecko had some banana, and they're just, yeah, it's just wonderful. And this is why one of the big reasons I came to Madagascar. This was the lemur I wanted to see the most. Madagascar has no actual woodpeckers, no birds. This is the Madagascar version of a woodpecker, believe it or not, is this particular lemur. It's the eye. It's nocturnal, has the big eyes, comes out at night. And this is what made the trip to Madagascar so worthwhile. They're almost never seen. The people there are afraid of them. They're harbingers of death. So they're not very popular with the people, but this place specialized in eyes. So they eat coconuts, they break into them a minute. I'm sorry, this is covered. It's elongated finger. One of the fingers, and I'm sorry it's covered up with that print, but it has this finger. What it does is it taps. Instead of having a bill like a woodpecker, it taps the trees. It hears things with its great ears, and then it eats into them and gets the insects and bugs. It's just totally incredible. And a great finger and a great, not the most beautiful, perhaps, but like it eats into a coconut in a couple of seconds. Huge, big, sharp teeth. And I just love this guy. There's my eye. Like I say, maybe only a mother would love it by its looks, but they're so different. They're almost otherworldly. And yeah, I love the eye. There he is. Bye to the eye. We went twice to see the eyes. We went once. I went once with Adrian. I didn't get any good shots like this. My camera was acting up. I didn't have the settings right. So I begged them, and they took me back the second night. That's when I got most of these shots. I had the camera settings right. I had things right. And yeah, I got the eye shots. When I come back, Adrian said I was walking about 2 feet off the ground with this great silly grin on my face. So she knew I'd done okay. So that was our second place of staying. Again, a wonderful place. This is where we started from, out under the water. We go back to here, and then head back to Tana. It's only 200 kilometers. The roads in Tana are the worst I've found in the world. And I've been on some pretty bad roads. You go about 30 miles, 30 kilometers an hour at full speed, and then you're dodging potholes and ditches and riding. Oh, it's incredible. And like I've been in Tanzania's roads, I've been in Costa Rica's roads. They make these roads look like highways. And that was the end of our trip, actually. It's not quite the end of what I want to tell you today, but it's the end of our trip. We flew to Cape Town, South Africa, did South Africa and a lot of the places in Southern Africa. I can do another show another time about that. This is only Madagascar. I can show you diving with sharks and taking with whales and elephants or whatever you want in South Africa another time. But what I want to talk to you a bit about is I told you that the poverty in Madagascar, and I'll only mention, I'll go through this quickly, but that's one of the things that were so obvious to us. It is the third poorest country in the world. 78% of the people live below the poverty line, and the poverty line there is $2 Canadian a day. 78% of the people have less income than that. So here's one of the family businesses. You get a load of rocks delivered. There's the rocks. Then the whole family spends day after day after day. Here's the girl carrying those rocks into the family, and all of them sit down with hammers and they break them into gravel because they can sell the gravel for more than they pay for the rocks. This is a family business. Probably the parents are doing it. They did it as children. The children are doing it. Maybe their children will do it. Hard to see. Look at the little boy. He's not in school. First of all, the government says they provide education, but they don't. Unless you can afford it in the small rural villages, unless you can get together with other people with some money and hire a teacher, they have no school to go to. So this is what the kids do. They work with the family. They break rocks with a hammer. No face shield, no eye protection. This is poverty. This is poverty in the raw. And we saw this over and over and over again. So yeah, it was sobering to see that level of poverty. And partly as a consequence of the poverty, Madagascar is 80% of its trees are now gone. They've cut them down. And you think, oh, how terrible to cut down all those trees. But they have very little choice. There is no electricity in the rural villages, no electricity. So they rely on wood. This is wood that somebody's gathered by the roadside for sale. They rely on wood and they use charcoal. They buy charcoal, and that's their main source of heat, of cooking, and everything else. And they buy a lot of charcoal. This is what a family would have beside their house, bags and bags of charcoal. In every one of those, probably bags of charcoal is 2 or 3 trees that the charcoal burners, which is another whole occupation, the charcoal burning specialists have made into charcoal. And this is why we have massive deforestation. They have no other source of power, of heat, of cooking. And it's sad. One of the things we did for Christmas, this is from, some of this is from a Christmas letter we sent out to our family and friends at Christmas saying, no Christmas presents from us this year. Sorry, we're going to make a donation to a project in Madagascar that we think will make a difference. So this is a typical cooking scene. Big pieces of wood, like you saw, an iron pot. This is in the house. Smoke, which is a big problem for children and women who spend more time in the house. They have lots of breathing problems and yeah. So one of the projects that we thought was brilliant, let me get back. They got no money. They can't buy anything. So they get local materials, they make clay, they form the clay, and they make cooking pots for themselves. And this is huge. This is huge. With these cooking pots, they can actually save, instead of having, they can use sticks, and they can save 75% less wood than they would otherwise. 75%. The other thing they are learning to do is make biofuel. So they take grass and rice husks, lots of rice, they form it, they dry it, and this is a wonderful source of heat. Almost no smoke, so way healthier. So this is the kind of project, this is where we invested our Christmas money. I don't think my family was really happy about it, but this was important. This was important. The other part of this is every village, they build their own new cooking pots. They learn how to use biofuel and make it, and they are also committed to plant trees. In order to get part of this project, plant trees. So use less, burn less trees, cut down less trees, use less charcoal, and plant trees. So this is why we supported this, and this is one of the reasons we travel. It's not just to see the birds and the animals and all the rest, important as that is and wonderful as that is. We also like to learn about the country and the people of the country, and we learned a lot about Madagascar, some of which I don't have time to tell you. But I think maybe that's a good place to wrap it up. Okay, there we are. Whoop. I see the sun has caught my head. I'm in my living room, and the sun is fierce here. So that's the top of my head. I'm trying to duck out of the sunshine. Maybe what I'll do is lower my chair there. Then I won't be stuck in the sunshine. So
Okay, Dawn, it's Nancy.
Yep.
We have a few questions for you.
Sure.
What season was the trip? What time of year were you there?
Okay, we're there in September, and we're in the southern hemisphere. So our fall, their spring. We're there in what they would call their springtime of the season. Yeah.
Are the lemurs related to monkeys?
Actually, mostly no. Lemurs were prior to monkeys, and in Africa, for example, for a while there were lemurs first, and then the monkey species came along. They were faster, more aggressive, and in Africa itself, lemurs died out, and monkeys took over. Monkeys never got to Madagascar. So the lemurs are diversified, moved into different niches, became things like woodpecker equivalents, and from mouse to big, and yeah. So lemurs are first, were in Africa, died out in Africa, stayed in Madagascar.
How do the guides tell the difference between baby frogs and miniature frogs?
That's a good question. The miniature frogs are so tiny, and I guess maybe the time of year, I don't know. Maybe it's magic. Maybe they just know. But they certainly seem to be quite sure of themselves. And seeing as they live there every day, the one guide we had, I think, was probably in his maybe early 60s. He lived there, grown up there, lived all his life there, never wanted to go anywhere else. He knew every leaf, every plant, every tree, their knowledge of their environment. When you're doing this every day, it's just absolutely incredible. They know whereof they speak. The forests are their living room, their backyard,
yeah.
And they know everything in it. It's amazing.
The one of the comments was maybe the eyes are the golems of the lemur world.
Yeah.
Um, is there any solar power? And do they have things like radios and phones?
I saw people, our guide had a cell phone. I saw a few local people with cell phones. They have to go to town and go to a special store to recharge them because they have no electricity in their houses. There sometimes is one place or two places in a small village where they actually, probably out of generators and batteries, recharge your cell phone. Didn't hear a radio the whole time we were there. That would be a real luxury. Again, because of just no electricity, you'd have to have batteries, and unless you had rechargeable batteries, and even that, how do you recharge them? And you can't afford to buy batteries. You can't afford batteries. I mean, we're talking $2 a day for a family. You don't have money for batteries. Your thing is food, shelter, buying charcoal or whatever to cook, getting your food.
It may be that there isn't like radio stations, but I know because I was involved with the distribution in some poor countries in Africa, they make great use of solar powered radios.
Yeah.
That have a local, a limited range, but they can use it for market days and things like that.
Yeah, there is electricity in the main city of Tana. There is basically no electricity outside of Tana. Solar power would, again, who could afford it? Yeah. They just couldn't afford it, and would be wonderful if all that technology was available. One of the things I've tried to argue, there's a BioLite stove that's produced for North American camping market. So you burn twigs in it, and there's a little thing on it the side where you can use it to charge your cell phone. You plug your cell phone into your bio stove. I have tried to persuade that company to get involved in Madagascar and supply one of their bio stoves for each village so that they can have a source for charging their cell phones. Yeah. You just plug it in. I haven't persuaded them yet, but I'll keep trying. And I've got a few of my friends trying to persuade them to to donate a few thousand maybe over time of their bio stoves. They can't afford to buy them. They never will be able to buy them, but they can give them, and they do some of that in Africa. They are providing some in the very poorest places of Africa, Nancy. So they just haven't got to Madagascar yet, but I'm hoping.
A couple of more questions. What's the pollution like there?
Very little. I mean, there's the smoke from the cooking. There are very few cars. There basically pollution is not an issue in Madagascar, except where the mines, some of the big mines produce some pollution that's getting into the river system, and some of the pollution comes from agriculture and putting chemicals on the crops that they grow. That can create a source of pollution, but air pollution like we know it, no coal-fired generators, nothing producing much electricity. Very, very great, good quality air, except in the homes where you have smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel safe there? Was there any chance of infection from the animals or the birds?
We felt completely safe in the forest with the birds, animals. We were with guides, but I'm sorry, I've spent a lot of time in the bush. I've spent a lot of time in the forest. I don't get close to things. I have a great camera. I don't have to get close. I can take great pictures from a long way away, which is what I do. And the country itself, I felt totally safe. They were wonderfully warm people. And one of the things that struck both Adrian and I, we almost never, I think I mentioned it, I almost never saw anybody alone. They're always with people. Families work as groups. People walk around together. they're very, very close knit socially. And that was wonderful to see. I mean, that was very inspiring. It's not mom off to work here and dad off to work there and kids off to school in 3 other places. They're together, and they're not well clothed, but I saw everybody, the kids especially, they're wearing clean clothes. Now, they're mostly from North America. They obviously are sent into the country, but they keep them clean and neat. And they obviously take a lot of pride in the appearance, and they're beautiful people. They're beautiful people.
Well, that's the end of the questions that I've seen, Dawn. So, Yvonne, are you on? Well,
Yes,
then
I'm on. I've
Okay.
just muted myself. Hi,
There.
Dawn.
Hi.
I want to thank you. Finally, I got to meet you, and to thank you. I'm sorry I had problems getting on, so I missed the beginning. But it was absolutely wonderful, your travels. And yes, we would like to see more of what you are doing,
Well, Yvonne, when you want to book me in again, I do South Africa, Tanzania, Australia, India, Hawaii, Costa Rica.
Right, that would
I
be
do
wonderful.
quite a few shows.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have about 60,000 pictures in my system,
Oh,
and
my-
most of those are taken right here at my cottage. I take pictures here every day.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And great to see all these friendly faces and familiar faces. Wonderful to see you all. Nancy, this is going to be recorded and people could access it later if they wanted to, or share it with other
Yes.
people or whatever?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
we're planning on.
Good.
Great.
And I'm going to record it, and now I have recorded it. I'm going to put it on my website as well, which is where I'm going to put my shows now. I can't go and do them in person, which is what I like to do, but I can do them this way, and then I can put them online myself. So I'm going to do that. So anyway, good to see you all, and thank
Yeah.
you. And
Terrific.
Thank you. Wonderful. Bless you.
Okay.